What's up, YouTube? This is your friend, the neighborhood movie nerd, back to give you guys everything that is going on in the world of movies and TV. And this is a little bit of a change considering the fact that I didn't have a camera today, so I had to go exclusively audio. But that's not going to stop me from getting you guys great quality content on, of course, my new channel, the Talkin TV YouTube channel. And today, in honor of Star Wars month, I'm finally getting to a top 10 list that I've wanted to do for quite a while now. And that is, of course, the top 10 Star Wars lightsaber battles. Lightsaber battles are, of course, a quintessential part of the entire Star Wars experience and part of the reason why we love Star Wars so much. As soon as you hear those laser swords go shoom, it just activates something inside of you. And so, of course, today I'm going to be going over my top 10 personal favorite lightsaber battles from this magical franchise, and I'm including live action and animated on this list. I really tried my hardest to be as objective as possible, but there were a lot of fights to pick from, so stay tuned. But first, some honorable mentions. Number 10, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Gallia versus Darth Maul and Opress from Star Wars The Clone Wars.
Throwing in with pirates now. Oh, how the mighty Sith have fallen.
With the newly returned Maul and his brother, Opress, continuing their reign of terror across the galaxy, this time in the form of forming their own crime syndicate, the Jedi dispatch Maul's enemy, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and fellow Jedi Gallia to deal with the Dathomir brothers. They arrive in the middle of a civil war that Maul has caused within Hondo and Naka's pirates, and the two Jedi immediately engage them. However, they are separated, and Gallia is brutally beaten and killed by Opress. The fight was brutal, another example of Maul's fight prowess and just how much of a threat he still posed despite him no longer technically being a Sith. And honestly, if not for Hondo's cunning and conman skills, this may very well have been the battle where Obi-Wan lost to Maul. Number 9. Anakin Skywalker versus Barriss Offee from Star Wars The Clone Wars. After his beloved apprentice Ahsoka Tano is framed for the bombing of the Jedi Temple in the 5th season finale, Anakin Skywalker is on the warpath to find out who was truly behind this terrible event. Tracking down former Sith apprentice turned bounty hunter Asajj Ventress, who is attempting to help Ahsoka as well, Anakin learns that Ahsoka's friend and fellow Jedi Padawan Barriss Offee is the true perpetrator behind the attacks, having grown disillusioned with the Jedi's role during the Clone Wars. Confronting her in her chambers, Anakin forces her on the defensive, and their fight takes them through the Jedi Temple and out in front of a batch of younglings. Despite Offee's skill at wielding double lightsabers, she proves no match against Anakin, who is slowly but surely growing closer to his eventual turn to the dark side. Despite Anakin successfully defeating Barriss and bringing her to justice, as well as clearing Ahsoka's name, Ahsoka still chooses to walk away from the Jedi Order, breaking her master's heart but unknowingly extending her own life. Number 8. Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Darth Maul from Star Wars Rebels.
Look what has become of you.
Now here was a fight that was long in the making. Ever since their first encounter on Naboo, Maul had been seething over his revenge against his enemy, Obi-Wan. Having clashed numerous times after his return in the Clone Wars, Maul disappeared from the main fray after he was captured and tortured by his former master, Darth Sidious. Years later, after his reintroduction in the Season 2 finale of Star Wars Rebels, Maul coerced Ezra Bridger to help him merge the Jedi and Sith holocrons in their possession in order to seek out unlimited knowledge. However, it is of course a trick, as it gives Maul exactly what he had been searching for years, the location of his old enemy. After tracking the now much older Obi-Wan to his new hiding spot on Tatooine and tricking Ezra into leading him to the former Jedi, Maul is at first seething to see how his old enemy has gained inner peace at last. However, after correctly guessing that Obi-Wan is protecting someone, Obi-Wan's lightsaber ignites and the two go at it. Despite being easily the shortest lightsaber fight in Star Wars history, the amount of pathos and story resolution that goes into this quick moment is enough to make this one of the more memorable Star Wars moments. After being cut down by his old enemy in 3 strokes, Maul dies in Obi-Wan's arms, with the knowledge that his old enemy is protecting the new Chosen One, who would eventually go on to avenge them both. Number 7. Ahsoka Tano versus Darth Maul from Star Wars The Clone Wars. The release of the 7th and final season of The Clone Wars on the Disney Plus streaming service was a momentous occasion to say the least, but it still wasn't even close to the feelings that fans got with the 4-part series finale that marked the end of the Clone Wars era. It's coinciding with Revenge of the Sith and the transition into the original trilogy era of Star Wars. Having been recruited by Bo-Katan and some of the other former members of Death Watch to remove Darth Maul from his seat of power on Mandalore, Ahsoka Tano reaches out to Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi in order to help them. However, at the same time, General Grievous launches his attack on Coruscant to kidnap Chancellor Palpatine, which forces Anakin and Obi-Wan to head there in order to begin the events of Revenge of the Sith. However, Anakin at first splits up the 501st Legion and sends newly promoted Commander Rex to assist Ahsoka and the Mandalorians in their attempt to bring Maul to justice. After successfully invading the planet and engaging Maul's troops, Ahsoka finds herself face to face with the former Sith Lord, in which he reveals the horrifying truth that he has foreseen the end of the Clone Wars and that he engineered the conflict on Mandalore to lure Anakin to Mandalore so that he could rob Darth Sidious of his new apprentice. Ahsoka is almost fooled into joining him until he reveals that he had planned to kill Anakin. The amazing thing about this fight is that besides the jaw-dropping visuals, former Darth Maul performer Ray Park actually returned for a motion capture performance, repeating the amazing choreography he made so awesome 21 years ago. It's an awesome fight that goes from the main palace to the rafters above Mandalore, and despite Ahsoka's success in apprehending him, it is too little too late by that point. Number 6. Darth Maul and Savage Opress versus Darth Sidious from Star Wars The Clone Wars.
Master.
With Maul and Savage's antics finally having reached a point of no return, with Maul successfully conquering Mandalore and taking over Death Watch, murdering Pre Vizsla and Duchess Satine in the process, the balance within the Force had been tipped, with Darth Sidious finally noting that his former apprentice had gained enough power to pose a threat to his carefully laid plans. Traveling to Mandalore personally, the Sith Lord easily overpowers his former apprentice and his brother, and engages the two of them with double lightsabers. Despite the combined Dathomir brothers' strength, they are no match for the Sith Master, who makes quick work of the two of them, brutally killing Savage and apprehending Maul with Force lightning. Maul's pleas of mercy are lost on Sidious, who cackles with delightful glee as he tortures his former apprentice, reminding him of the ancient Sith rule that there can only ever be two. Number 5. Ahsoka Tano versus Darth Vader from Star Wars Rebels. Another payoff that Rebels delivered that was years in the making. Ever since Ahsoka Tano's return to the fray in the Rebels Season 1 finale, as well as the return of everyone's favorite Sith Lord and Ahsoka's former master, fans knew that at some point they were going to get a confrontation that was both dreaded and heartbreaking. After some back and forth cat and mousing within the Force, as well as Ahsoka's realization that it was indeed her former master who was now serving as the Emperor's number 2, the two finally saw each other for the first time since the end of the Clone Wars in the Season 2 finale, Twilight of the Apprentice. Having tracked Ezra, Kanan, and Ahsoka to the Sith planet of Malachor, Vader is about to kill Ezra when his old apprentice calls out to him. Turning to face her, Vader attempts to convince her to reveal the location of the remaining Jedi before stating that he killed his old persona of Anakin Skywalker for being weak. Vowing to avenge her former master's death, Ahsoka ignites her twin white lightsabers and engages Vader in easily one of the most epic lightsaber fights of the sequel series. Despite getting a few good licks in, Ahsoka is ultimately no match for her former master and chooses not to leave his side again after she cuts away a piece of his helmet. Thank God for time-hopping interdimensional time spaces, because if Ezra hadn't been there to save her, who knows what could have happened. Number 4. Yoda versus Darth Sidious from Star Wars Episode 3, The Revenge of the Sith. Okay, we're finally done with animation, I promise. Despite the prequel trilogy's many problems, one thing is absolutely for sure. The lightsaber fights were awesome. With more advanced computer effects as well as some killer fight choreography, the battles were able to feel more enhanced, more fluid, and twice as deadly. With the revelation of Palpatine as Darth Sidious and the execution of Order 66 leading to the death of most of the remaining Jedi, surviving Jedi Yoda and Obi-Wan Kenobi vow to destroy the Sith, with Yoda having to deal with the newly christened Emperor while Obi-Wan heads to Mustafar to deal with his former apprentice. Yoda knocks out Palpatine's guards with ease before the Sith Lord shocks him with Force lightning. However, Yoda is not so easily taken down and fires right back with the Force, before the two brandish their lightsabers in a fight that takes them out into the massive Senate Hall. This fight gets creativity points for not just being a straight-up lightsaber fight, although that part is awesome. The one-liners between these two ancient Force users are killer. Palpatine's constant cheating tactics by hurling Senate pod after Senate pod are once again an example that this Sith Lord is not to be messed with, as he constantly forces Yoda to be on the defensive, as well as the fact that this is one of the few fights with no clear winners, with Yoda's deflection of Palpatine's Force lightning knocking them both in opposite directions, forcing Yoda to accept his failure and go into exile, allowing the Sith to resume control over the newly created Empire. Number 3. Luke Skywalker versus Darth Vader from Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, and Star Wars Episode 6, The Return of the Jedi. The original. And I'll admit, this one's kind of a cheat because these are technically two separate lightsaber fights, but the thing is, you kind of can't have one without the other, so they kind of go together as like this one big grandiose lightsaber fight. You see, back in 1980, audiences, of course, were not oversaturated with Star Wars content, so when The Empire Strikes Back hit theaters, they were not at all expecting the twists, turns, perils, and betrayals that their beloved characters would be forced to face. Lured to bestman by the Empire's torture of his friends, up-and-coming Jedi Luke Skywalker is forced to face the Dark Lord Vader on his own. Completely outmatched and in way over his head, their fight turns from playful toying to full-on force, ending with the infamous moment of Vader cutting off Luke's hand. And as if that wasn't enough, Vader drops the biggest bombshell in movie history with the revelation that Obi-Wan lied to Luke about the fate of his father, and that Vader is actually Luke's father.
No, I am your father.
The pathos is continued in the third installment, with Luke this time volunteering to return to Vader in order to protect his friends from the Empire's wrath, completely unaware that the Emperor has been aware of their plans the entire time. Vader brings Luke before his master, and despite refusing to fall victim to the Emperor's ploys, Luke is still goaded into taking up his lightsaber and fighting his father yet again. The fight plays out much differently this time, with Luke giving into his anger and almost killing his father, chopping off his hand yet again, before recovering and refusing to fall victim to the dark side the way his father did so many years ago. Angry at the loss of yet another apprentice, the Emperor unleashes the full power of his Force lightning, until Vader finally sees clearly for the first time in years and throws his old master down a generator shaft, completing his arc and saving his son, at the loss of his own life. Number 2. Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Darth Maul from Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Here it is, the lightsaber fight that got me into Star Wars. This fight has a special place in my heart and a lot of other people's, as the climax of the first Star Wars movie to hit the big screen in 16 years saw the two Jedi Knights facing off against the first Sith Lord that had been seen in almost 300 years. Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan returned to Naboo to assist Queen Amidala in her rebellion against the Trade Federation's invasion of her planet, but are forced to deal with Sith Lord Darth Maul, who has been sent to Naboo to assist Viceroy Gunray in his hold of the planet. The first three-way lightsaber fight in Star Wars history, complete with John Williams' iconic Duel of the Fates score, pounding as these three go at it, just made this lightsaber fight truly one for the ages. Of course, Obi-Wan is separated and forced to watch as his master is tired out and killed by the enigmatic Sith apprentice. After managing to kill Maul, or so he thinks, Obi-Wan manages to fulfill Qui-Gon's dying wish that newly found Force-sensitive Anakin Skywalker be trained as a Jedi, believing him to be the subject of the prophecy of the Chosen One, who would destroy the Sith and bring balance to the Force. It was an iconic fight that set out many things to come in the Star Wars verse, and despite there being many more variations of lightsaber fights, there would never quite be one again as special and as awesome as this one. Number 1. Anakin Skywalker / Darth Vader versus Obi-Wan Kenobi from Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Arguably the most iconic fight in Star Wars history. Anakin Skywalker has completed his turn to the dark side, having slaughtered most of the remaining Jedi in the temple as well as the separatist leaders on Mustafar. He awaits his master's instructions when he discovers his wife Padme Amidala's approaching ship. Running out to the landing platform to meet her, he is angered to learn that Obi-Wan has stowed away on her ship, believing that she has betrayed him. He force chokes her into submission until Obi-Wan tells him to let her go. After a few taunting words, former master and apprentice lock blades in a fight that takes them all the way around the planet. Lava pouring everywhere makes this battlefield a constant waking nightmare that could kill any one of them at any minute, and only serves to heighten the tension in this already epic fight. Beating each other into submission, the two wind up on floating heaps that take them to the shore. When Obi-Wan leaps to take the high ground, Anakin severely overestimates himself and his former master, and is caught down, and after falling too close to the lava, ends up being burned to a crisp. However, Obi-Wan makes the mistake of not being able to finish the job, and leaves his former apprentice, assuming that the lava will finish him off. Unfortunately, Sidious arrives in the nick of time and spirits him back to Coruscant, and completes the process that transforms beloved Jedi Knight Anakin Skywalker into dreaded Sith Lord Darth Vader. However, hope arrives in the form of Padme's twins Luke and Leia, who would go on to lead a generation of rebels in toppling the reign of terror that their father helped to create. The Phantom Menace may have kicked off the charge, but the amount of emotion and pure awesome visual imagery that go into this fight makes this easily some of the best Star Wars that there has ever been. That was it. Those were my top 10 personal favorite lightsaber fights in the entire Star Wars canon. Guys, there were a lot of fights that I had to go over, but that was a lot of fun. Again, Star Wars has a special place in my heart, and has a special place in a lot of people's hearts, and the lightsaber fights are a strong reason for that. So, what are your guys' favorite lightsaber fights? Did I leave some off? Were there some that I missed in the honorable mentions? Whatever, if there were any such as that, make sure you leave them in the comment section below. Make sure you also click that like button and that subscribe button. Go over and follow me on all of my other stuff. I have a podcast. It's called Talkin TV. It's pretty cool. I think you guys should check it out. Anyways, stay cool and be good.